Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another round preview for round nine, collabing with Wicky AI, coming to you. Aman talks NRL SuperCoach as well. Nicole, how are you going? How are you feeling into this week? Feels again like another big, what week isn't a big trading week, but this week does feel like there are some big decisions that are being made. Yeah, lots of overthinking coming from my end. How about you? How are you feeling and how are you going?
Uh, I I don't know how normal this is, but I feel like the more chaos there is, I just become numb to it. I don't know if you so obviously I do a lot of try score tip stuff for Wiki, right? So the moment I was refreshing my page for the 750 update, the 24-hour update yesterday, Cleary's out. The Rabbitohs
Oh,
obviously sacked their coach that morning, four positional changes. And I'm just like, I just froze. I was like, that's too much to act on. And obviously that carries on to Supercoach. Yeah, I'll definitely. I actually have only used two boosts. I think I kept being patient when my team was not looking so great a few weeks ago, and I'm definitely going to have to use a boost now. How about yourself? How are you going?
yeah, not too bad. The last couple of weeks since we last spoke, gone up the rankings both weeks. So that's saying something. Maybe I need to stop doing this. No, I'm joking. I think my decision making have just been more sensible with my decisions and whatnot. And I got lucky Captain Nico last week, which definitely helped too. I must commend you on one of your guys that I know you've had for a few weeks now. Actually, number 8 traded in Dave Fafita. He's not being very heavily brought in, but like you've had him for weeks, and he's just making a fool of out of anyone who doesn't have him.
My
Everyone's
only good
he's,
decision for the season.
yeah, he's looking at us like, mate, I don't need 80 minutes. 55 minutes is all I need. Still, I'm the best second row forward in Supercoach. He's one who like we'll chat a little bit about, but yeah, props to you for getting on him. But yeah, we'll go through as always the top 10 at trade ins and outs and touch on captaincy as well for this week, which I'll admit, I think after what Nico's done the last 2 weeks, I feel like every man and his dog is going to be scared of not putting the captaincy on him, despite whatever the weather forecasts say. So
Yep.
that might be a very short discussion. But on the top 10 trade ins, so number one is Ruben Garrick, who put up 145 points last week, 605K. Cherry Evans has been cleared to play as well, which I think is a big boost for his credentials as well. Raiders, who conceded a lot of points last week,
40
um,
minutes.
makes sense to me. What do you think about him as a trade in at number one?
Yep, he's lost 118K, dual position, should play fullback for a couple of weeks somewhere during Origin. You'd think with Turbo either not playing because he's playing Origin or he's being rested. And the last thing I'll add is, yeah, obviously Daly Cherry Evans got off his suspension, so he'll be playing. Hamole won't be, which might see some ball, might see some extra ball, sorry, to Garrick and Saab on the right edge. No brainer, I reckon. What about you?
Yeah, look, the draw does toughen up a little bit if you. I'll quickly have a look at it. If you see his draw. Oh, by the way, trying to navigate the new interface,
Yeah, the new
takes
interface.
some getting used to as well. But if you look at the upcoming, so the next 2 weeks look really good. Does toughen a little bit. Broncos, Melbourne, then a bye, then Penrith. Like that is not an easy run.
Yep.
But Suncorp is a game that I still think there are points to be had. At least Melbourne's at home. No, mistaking. Penrith away is going to be tough, but it is the
Origin
week after
up.
Origin.
Yep.
Origin players could be out, and then after that, probably it definitely gets easier. I think with Garrick, he's shown already he's matchup proof. I think, and this is probably the best price you can get him. Good matchup this week as well. Yeah, this is one where I'm trying not to overthink, and I already wanted him last week. I mentioned it. I was hoping that he wouldn't go too big to get him at like sub 600K. Didn't happen. He showed what kind of high ceiling he does have. So yeah, he's one of my top traded in targets for sure this week. A lot of people trying to fund that move. Obviously, big sells this week is Ethan Strange and Schiller. And a lot of people are downgrading one of those two to Dave Armstrong from the Knights, who's the fullback. Been listed again this week, playing only a second game, so he won't go up in price this week. There are some potential job security concerns with him, but he did look good last week. What do you reckon about him? Do you think it's fine to go a week early on him as the number two most traded in, or would you try to, as much as possible, try to wait another week?
Yep. So my sort of sensible and normal feedback is always wait for that second week. I would say with David Armstrong, I didn't know who the hell he was, but I'm such a rugby league enough that I was even watching preseason games and he looked freakishly good. And he
Mm.
played last week, scored the first try. And because you can choose him at center wing, I reckon he'll actually end up holding on to his spot. He looked electric. So if there's other things you need to do with your team, obviously wait the week. But yeah, because I've just got so many players who are doing really badly and need to be traded out, I'm probably going to actually have to trade him in. And I might actually also be doing the double and bringing in Armstrong and Fuller. Fuller,
Mm.
I think I'm going to bring in for Drinkwater. They're playing up against each other. I'm skipping to the next one here, but I think because Drinkwater's meant to be losing quite a bit of cash and Fuller should be obviously putting on quite a bit of cash. For my team, I think I'm going to be bringing both in. How about yourself?
Now that is an interesting place to drink water. I was very much a person who was thinking if you've got drink water now, because of the good run coming up, he's got Dolphins this week, then I believe it's Titans, then I think it's the Rabbitohs, then I think it's maybe Tigers before playing round 13. If he doesn't play Origin as well, then he'd be available for round 13. He was someone who I'd be maybe looking at as a potential buy. So I mean, I have heard of people selling him like yourself, and we have to talk about the elephant in the room here, which is Trey Fuller. Like he's bottom dollar. Actually, quickly on Armstrong, there are some job security risks with him. There's been a Fletcher Sharp who's been kind of bandied about in Newcastle circles, but I think based on what we've seen from him last week and what you've said in the preseason, my feeling is that he will hold on to that fullback spot. The Knights also do play round 13, so I can see him, if not the most traded in option this week, he definitely will be next week, I think, if he gets named again next week. So I think, personally, I do think it's fine to get on him this week, but of course, if you can wait and see and get absolute security, you can definitely wait the week. But yeah, Trey Fuller he's doing my absolute head in. So I've got Turbo, I've got Pappy. I think Fuller is a good, I think for the couple of weeks that you will at least be able to get him, Hamiso's due back round 11, but it's a hamstring injury. We know that we've just seen it with Cleary. These are finicky injuries. They don't necessarily go away straight away. There is a high re-injury risk. Hamiso is a player who relies on his speed and things. And, even if he's back round 11, could he be eased in maybe at center, not fullback? I'm looking at Trey Fuller, like he's got really good numbers. Like I know Queensland Cup is different to the NRL, but he had 5 games in Queensland Cup. And in those 5 games, he had scored 3 tries, 2 try assists, 5 line breaks, and 36 tackle busts. I know Queensland Cup, as I said, is different. But that's like 7 tackle busts per game. And in his first 2 games, he's got, I think, 7 tackle busts versus the I can't remember, his very first game was 7. And then he had 11 tackle busts last week versus the Knights. So he's a high work rate player who we know is, but that is perfect for Supercoach. And I'm looking at him, like I'm looking at Turbo at like, yes, I know this week is against Canberra is good, but can you expect Canberra to get absolutely shellacked again? I don't know. Turbo scored a try last week and only scored 55 points. So I'm thinking, is it the same Turbo who, like, he's been averaging 76, but are we going to get that 130, 140 that we're all afraid of him getting? Are we going to see that? I'm not sure. Can Fuller match him? Plus the money from Turbo down to Fuller, I can fix all the problems in my team. Like instead of having to go Armstrong, I can go Turbo to Fuller, and I can go Ethan Strange, Schiller, see you later. Come into my team, Ruben Garrick, and like an Asako, and I've still got 350k to play with, which I would keep to try to upgrade Fuller. So like I'm looking at my team thinking it really lets me get good money into my center wing, and it's bloody tempting. So that's a bit of my rant on Fuller. I think he's a good get. Even if it's only for 2 weeks, he can still make 250k in that time. Like if you keep that 300k in the bank, you can easily go to another gun fullback in a couple of weeks. I don't know. I'm leaning towards pulling the trigger myself and going Turbo to Fuller. You're already doing it as well, so sounds like we're on the same page.
Yeah, the last point you made is the big one. So not to hop on these two guys for the whole pod, but I think I'll just say very last point was like you don't actually need to think about these guys as you do with like most other positions and cows. Think about this as like a 1 or 2 week band-aid solution, right? You bring in Fuller. The way I'm thinking about it, and also I'm looking outside, it's bloody perfect weather in Sydney, which is annoying, but it's meant to rain for most of this weekend for most of the games that are on, right? So the way I think about it is like that game, you would think that Drinkwater is going, well, his B is like crazy high. I forgot the exact number, but
148. Yeah.
that bang. Okay. So his B is super high. Fuller, like he's essentially going to drop a shitload of money and Fuller's going to increase a shitload of money. And it could even be a 1 week move. Like for me, it actually Fuller might only be in my team. I know it's a little bit silly, but it might actually be for a week because what I'm going to do is next week, like I'm most likely going to trade Fuller in, get the money, save that money I would have lost from Drinkwater, and then have like an objective look at, all right, the next 3 weeks before Origin, which of the fullbacks, I've got Reece Walsh with him, which of the fullbacks the best trade-ins for the next 3 weeks and beyond. And if I'm undecided and full of guns at this weekend, I might hold him for 1 more week and then make that decision. So I think don't think it because it's the fullback spot. You don't want to mess around with it, right? Like you do want to have your best possible players in there. So don't get too attached to Fuller. Bring him in, get his score, get his price, weigh it up next week. At least that's what I'm doing. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm trying to not let the $200 200K get that that price bias, just
Yeah.
because someone is priced expensively doesn't necessarily always mean that they're like, this is Dream Buller, right? Like he was bottom dollar and he ended up killing it. I'm looking at Trey Fuller as like, if he was 550K, 600K, I feel like if he's put up the numbers that he's put up, people will probably say, maybe they won't go straight to him, but they'd probably say, oh yeah, he's justifying his price. It's just that he's 200K and people are like, visually, can you imagine a 200K guy and your fullback spot? That is the biggest thing I think people need to
Yeah.
understand and try to just remove that bias. And that's what I'm trying to do as well. I'm looking at his numbers thinking, in the next 2 weeks, Cowboys, we know that they're not the best defensively. Manly have actually ranked first in conceding points to opposition fullbacks as well. So the next 2 weeks, I'm thinking they could be good. And if he stays in that spot for longer, then he could just keep making money and it could be a season defining decision. So yeah, I know I talked about how in the beginning of the last couple of weeks I've been making sensible decisions and that's been helping me, but I'm looking at it as like, could this be the way to just really bolster the rest of my team and just go hell for leather? But it's a lot of time spent on Trey Fuller. I think we'll probably
Yeah,
skip over
yeah.
him,
Good
try to
one.
spend a bit more time, less time talking about the rest of them. But I think we needed to have that chat because I think he is the biggest headache and discussion
It's
point
like a
of.
counseling session.
Oh, I needed to get off my chest. You can tell I needed to get off my chest. So it's good that we're doing this. Adam Fanil-Blake, people probably selling the likes of Terrell May, which I think is fine. I was looking at maybe Terrell May as a potential hold in my team, just because of during the origin period, Lindsay Collins being out, the minutes could step up. And I'm also just not really too keen on using trades in front row forward, just because it's a bit of a meh position. But I think if you can get to anyone, he is the guy I think I'd be going to. Fanil-Blake. The draw is obviously not the best after this week, but draw doesn't probably matter so much for a front row forward. We know he's got the attacking stats in him. He is probably the best now, especially with this news that Payne Haas is in a bit of doubt. If you're
Mm.
paying up for a gun front row forward, he is really the only one. So I can't fault that move at all. Any thoughts on AFB?
I was over smart last week and didn't trade him in, and then he went on to score 2 tries. So don't think you want to listen to my advice. I think AFB is almost one where you've got to stop thinking about it too much and just bring him in. Obviously, Kiwi not going to play Origin.
Yeah,
I was considering a pod move and bringing Tapine in just because he's had 0 attacking stats. And yeah, look, he's not going to be as good as AFB, but I just thought he'd be a little bit more value. I'm considering it, but I think yeah, if you don't want to overthink it, just bring AFB in. I know he's gone up, what is it, 47K, and he scored, I think, 4, maybe even 5 tries so far this season. But he's got to be beyond that. He's gonna do that. Let him do his thing. Bring him in. Don't think about it. Move on.
Yep. Max Plath, 447K. So he's got the dual secondary forward 5'8". Quite like what I've seen from him as well. Like he's had good minutes, but he's also had a really good work rate. He's just like I think someone who has maybe Ethan Strange in their 5'8" and is looking to cash him in this week. Max Plath is probably the best person to move on to around. You're still making about 50K, but Plath will make some money. He does have a negative break even. The Dolphins are getting some forwards back, but they're mainly edge forwards, like a
Yeah.
Kafusi. J Brom was already playing last week, and Max Plath was still going okay. And I think he's played well enough that I think the minutes at best they're going to reduce to maybe say 50 to 55. In that time, I still think he can get you 50 to 55 points, which is very, very solid that you can have at your 5'8" as a bit of a backup, maybe in the future to a proven gun like a Munster or something. But yeah, I can't fault the Max Plath trade in, to be honest. He's already made 170K, but he still does have money to make. But also, I think he's just a solid option that you can actually rely on in your 17. We're seeing with Ethan Strange, scores are more volatile. So yeah, I wouldn't say he's necessarily a massive priority, but if he fixes the problem for you, like a Strange in your 5'8", then I think he's a very good get.
That's a good point. It's just that I've got Strange and Hutchison in my 5'8" halfbacks and
Ooh,
somewhere in there,
bit
and it's
ugly.
somewhere around there, and I want to piss them both off. And
Yeah,
then like I actually am annoyed that Plath. I've watched him very closely because I obviously put a lot of try score tips out for middle forward. So I watch middle forwards really closely. And Plath, not only did he score the 2 tries 2 weeks ago, last week he had a couple of half breaks and looked really good with the ball. I'm just annoyed that now he's gone up 65K. Because imagine him if he was 380K and had shown this kind of form, you'd be like, okay, fine, yeah, I'll just get him in. But now he's at an awkward price. But there's just not that many 5'8s you'd actually want. So in that case, I couldn't talk anyone out of it. He looks really good, passes the eye test.
Yeah, definitely. Next three, interesting, all kind of really big historic Supercoach guns, Nico Hines, Munster, and Fafita. So Hines does have a -3 break even, 965K. Like after this week, it gets tougher. I think he's got a run, which is in Melbourne, Roosters, and then Penrith, before a good matchup against, I think, Parramatta in the round 13 bye week. Do you just overlook the next three games being really tough and just think this week versus the Dragons, he's going to get mass captained? Yes, there's going to be a lot of rain, but Nico Hines, when his hair is wet, just seems to add another 50 points to his average. Like, he's really expensive. Like we know Cleary's out. If you're sitting with SJ and Cleary, like, would you even sell Cleary? Just go get Hines, because maybe have you seen enough doubt with Cleary that you're not sure about there's a hamstring, whereas Hines, is fully fit and he's got a great matchup this week at home. Like,
Yeah, look,
yeah,
considering we spent so much time on Trey Fuller, I'll sum up my thoughts on guys 6 to 10
yes, yeah,
very quickly. Look, Jacob Gagai is a popular trade-in, but he's been ruled out. It's confirmed, I think, due to a calf. He's not playing, so reverse your trades, fix that up if you have. Payne Haas is in doubt. He might play, but just be careful with him. Munster, I think he's very awkward with that ongoing growing concern. He looked great last week. I think it's his 200th game this week. So yeah, don't want to talk anyone out of him, but I'd be worried with that ongoing issue. David Fafita, so I've owned him for a few weeks. And I watch him very closely from a try scorer point of view as well. He went from dummy half 2 weeks ago, and last week he tried from dummy half,
tried,
first
yes,
scored,
right,
and
yeah,
then just later, I think he got the inside ball from Kieran Foran and just easily stormed over for a try. He wants it. He wants it
he
bad.
is, yeah,
Love watching
yeah.
him at the moment. He's only 24. He's playing that sort of lead. He's stepping into that sort of leadership position now, being rested for the first 20 minutes when he's probably not going to do much anyway. It's the grunt sort of type
Oh,
of game. He looks great. If you have the money and that sort of you want to piss off like a Smithies or something, David Fafita is a
or
great.
May maybe, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. And lastly on Hines, I'll let you actually talk about Hines properly, but the one insight that I'd give is Trindle, Braden Trindle, the left side, he got done for off-field issues. He's, I think, meant to be out for at least the next few weeks, so maybe 3 or 4 weeks kind of thing until roughly Origin Game 1. What that means is that Hines is playing with a rookie, and we know about spine players or halves that are paired with rookies. They get all the ball. Sione Katoa scored 2 on the right. Mulatalo scored 0 on the left last week. I think that's a sign. Ramian scored 1. Hines scored 1 himself, funnily, on the left.
Nicker scored one.
Exactly. Oh, holy shit, that's the whole right side.
Yeah,
So
all the right side just got
from a
fed because of
yeah, from an
Hines.
eye test point of view, from a footy point of view, yeah, he's going to get all the ball. Everyone wants him to be their captain. I think it's a huge risk not to even have him in your team. That's
Yeah. I think with no Trindle is a big thing, right? He's just so ball dominant. And yeah, I think to me personally, I think yeah, I would if you have Ashay Cleary, I'd even just sell Cleary for him, to be honest, just get him this week. And you can maybe navigate and swerve Cleary because of these ongoing hamstring things. On Munster real quick. So I think with Munster, I don't mind him as a trade-in, but I think probably people I would say temper their expectations. So I look back at his highest scores over the last like 4 seasons. 148 is actually his highest score really of the last 4 seasons. And he kind of has one game a season where he gets like 147, 150, close to that. Then he kind of goes back to his 60s and 70s, and he's very consistently averaging then about 70. So I think with Munster, you can see him drift in and out of games. Last week, obviously, he was really on. I just don't know if I'd be looking at that happening again this week. So again, 737K, it's a lot of money. You are seeing him go through Origin soon as well. So that's probably the only thing I would mention. Obviously, if you're getting a Cam Munster, I can't knock him as a trade-in, but that's probably the only thing I'd be wary of. And yeah, with Fafita, like honestly, he looks so good just coming off the bench. Like he just comes on and it's just like, give me the ball. He's running from dummy half. Like this is the thing. I'm considering going Trey Fuller because I can get in Dave Fafita from like Sean Lane, and my second and four is already pretty stacked, but Fafita's just looking so good. I would say he's a bit of a 4 week hold because he has got a pretty bad schedule during Origin where he will definitely miss 4 games in that 7 week period. So it's probably someone that you get on for the next 4 weeks. Hopefully he averages like 90 to 100, and then you just sell him on, and then you can play it that way. I think that's kind of how I would look at it with Fafita. So I think we've covered most of those top 10, or pretty much all of those top 10 trade-ins. On the outs, a lot of them do make sense, like Ethan Strange and Schiller. I don't think we need to comment too much. Apart from maybe Schiller, you don't have to trade him out this week because he won't change in price. Terrell May, again, all I would say with him is that if you need to upgrade him to like an AFB, I think perfectly fine. Any other option though, I'd probably, unless you can go to like a gun second or forward by a duels, say like Fafita, maybe even a Nickera. I don't mind those as options, or AFB. But I think outside of that, I wouldn't want to rush to get him out because I think the minutes could come back at any point and he could be back to his decent best. And yeah, we've kind of spoken about Turbo out, Brooks out. I imagine a lot of people were doing Brooks to Cleary, so that's probably just a remnant of that. Obviously, Cleary's not playing this week, so don't expect him to be in this top 10 anytime soon.
Yep.
Other ones, yeah, a lot of the Raiders players getting traded out makes sense. They've also got a bye coming up next week. Same with the Eels. Lussick, maybe people are upgrading him to say like a Harry Grant, which I really like as an option versus the Titans, or maybe they're going down to Jaden Braley, who I think is definitely looking a better option than Lussick with Brendan Hands on the bench last week, kind of eating into his minutes. And Bostock doesn't have that high of a break even. It's about 31, but I imagine a lot of people may be doing a sideways switch to a Garrick or like to an Asako type thing. I think that's perfectly fine. He's made 287K. He's definitely done his job.
Yep.
Let's talk about captaincy now, Nicole.
Yep.
Unless you had any other thoughts on these.
While you flick screen, so feel free to go to the captaincy. I'll just very quickly make a point on Terrell May. So Jared Warrior-Hargreaves has been ruled out for
Good one. Yeah, that's
game. Radley is on the extended bench, but there's no clarity on whether he's going to play or not. I assume you have other battles to fight with your team. I think May is actually fine to hold, hoping Radley doesn't play. May's done this weird thing where he either gets like stuff 4 minutes or big minutes. So hoping that he gets big minutes if Jared and Radley are both out. I think he's actually fine to hold. I think it'd be highly abnormal for him to continue to get 30 to 40 minutes consistently. I think he'll have this weird combination where Robbo just wakes up and says, I want to play Terrell May for 30 minutes today. And the other day he goes, I want to play him for 60. Long story short, I think Terrell May is fine to hold. But if you just said, stuff it, I want AFB, then yeah, fair enough.
Yep, cool. All right, so I've got the screen up for most popular VCs and captaincy. So spoiler alert, Nico Hines is mass captained, 33.5% of all coaches. So, and that's just all. I reckon if I did top 1%, so this is kind of more like the engaged players, 86.5%. Oh, there you go.
Top 10 just to get like a bigger sample size out of
Yeah, let's go top 10%. So top 10%, we're looking at 78%. We're pretty much saying 80% of engaged people are going to be captaining Hines this week. So do that information what you will. You can zag while others zig or whatever the phrase is. But you can see my logo. I've got the captaincy on him, so I'll be sticking with that for sure. I think it probably more comes down to, I mean, is there anyone else you can captain apart from him this week? That's the question.
The hard part is even if you VC someone and they get like 120, you'd still probably keep playing.
Yeah, exactly. Like what score is it going to take for you to not put it on him this week? Because he's gone 142 and 160 the last 2 weeks. So even if your VC gets like 112 or 118, you're not probably going to take that. I probably won't take that. I probably need to get like 150 from my VC just to lock in the points before I even consider, I think, captaining before I even consider not captaining Hines. So yeah, I think captaincy on Hines, last game of the round. He has got a very, very good average versus the Dragons. We know the Dragons have been improving, but they did concede 60 points last week to the Roosters. And Sharks are looking really good in attack as well. I think we have to give credit to the Sharks attack, and Hines is going to be central to everything that they do. So yeah, I'm not going to overthink this one. He's 100% my captain.
Yep.
Begs the question then, where do you maybe put your VC? If you are trying to chase someone with a big ceiling who you can maybe look to zag Hines against, it looks as though it's mainly fullbacks, which makes sense because of the whole setup in your team. Turbo, Pappy, Reece Walsh are the top three. I think these are fine, but I'm surprised at the lack of Cowboys players getting a VC. Val Holmes at 4%. He feels like one, looking at that number, it's a dry game. He's goal kicking. We love that versus the Dolphins. I think that's a really good shout for people to consider as a VC if you can make the loop work. Same with the Drinkwater. I know you're looking to move him on, but one of those two I think could really work out. Any other thoughts on potential VCs or on the most popular ones?
Yep. For once, I don't actually have that many thoughts. I'll very quickly support what you said there with the Cowboys. So, like I haven't actually looked up the weather for where they're playing today. But if it is a dry game, I think you raised. Oh, great. Okay. Well, you raised a good point around the Cowboys. One thing I'll very quickly say about the Dolphins. they've been missing 4 or 5 of their best players for the last couple of rounds, and they won a couple of weeks ago, and they almost got to the Knights and beat them last week. So what I'm trying to get at is they played surprisingly well. If it is dry and if it is obviously the Cowboys like flat track, I think that's a great shout, especially with Holmes. My whole thinking around like outside backs that are goal kicking, go all in on them. I think that's a great shout. But I also think like people are being smart with that Manly like turbo VC, because if the rain is going to hit Sydney, it'll get worse and worse throughout the weekend. Like, if you remember last year, Turbo went nuts a couple of weeks before Origin. So yes, he's been quiet, but if he does decide to switch it on before Origin, Canberra did leak 40 points and scored nothing last week. And if Manly, is it a home game for Manly? I think it is. If they're
It's
bold.
at home, yeah, which is why me trying to talk myself into selling him is scaring the daylights out of me.
Yeah. So anyway, like a Turbo VC makes sense, and a Holmes VC also makes sense, depending on what you feel like, really. But yeah, it's gonna have to take like a 150 plus score, you would think, to even think about taking the C off Hines.
Yeah, like Reece Walsh being more VC than Val Holmes is surprising given that he's got the Roosters. And yeah, Townsville weather on Saturday looks pretty good. 28 down to 20, sunny, bit of
Oh,
cloud,
good.
but no rain. Yeah, even I've got the VC on Pappy, which I'll more for the Titans matchup, so I'm happy with him. But even then, like as you said, we need to see something really, really big, I think, before we even consider looping with a VC. I think that probably brings us to the end of our preview. I think good stuff. I mean, we harped a lot about Armstrong and Fuller, but I think they are big talking points, and I kind of needed to vent a little bit. So thank you for listening while I went on that. And yeah, hopefully you all enjoyed. I'll leave it to you, Nicole. Any final plugs or shout outs or anything?
Look, I think just very quickly, if you're look, I've always been in the opposite end where I've been quite selfish with fantasy and Supercoach over the years, but obviously doing this pod and doing a lot more content, obviously the aim is to actually help most people. I would say if you're feeling not so great about your scores, your ranks and stuff, don't stress. We've got 4 weeks till Origin. Origin's the time where if you are playing for your overall rank, that's when you're going to shoot up the ranks. So don't feel defeated. We're in this with you. Just do your smart trades for a few more weeks. Origin time is really, really fun. But yeah, all things Wiki, Google Wiki Linktree. If your Discord just finally hit 4,000 over the Anzac Day weekend.
Oh, awesome.
And yeah, content across Supercoach, fantasy, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah, enjoy the weekend and good luck. And thanks for doing this again, Aman.
Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. Have a good weekend and good luck. See ya.
See you guys.